Today I'm going to be comparing my initial preliminary task, college magazine front page, to my final front cover page. I'm going to be talking about what I've learned from this process and how doing the preliminary task definitely helped me, and also comparing the two in terms of how good they are in terms of conventions and obviously things they both share that real life magazines ought to have. And I'll also be finally stating what fully I've learned from this whole process, because this is for my question 7 of my evaluation and the last question of the evaluation. First of all, I'm going to talk about what I've learned from this entire process, including making my front page and my preliminary task front page. Obviously, first of all, I have learned a lot in Photoshop. As I said previously in my question 6, I had already done media at my secondary school, which meant that I did have quite a lot of skills in Photoshop already, which kind of gave me advantage compared to other people. Obviously, comparing the two, you can definitely tell that my Photoshop skills did improve over the creation of these two, because obviously this one, the college magazine, I did entirely by myself, and this was with no feedback and getting it off from my peers, off from my teacher, which obviously disadvantaged me in a sense, because I feel like feedback is really, really important in improving your product and making it the best it can be. And obviously you can tell from here on my final front page that I have improved a hell of a lot, especially in terms of technique, and the text is obviously all better colours, and I've used a stroke, which I'm going to elaborate on later. And this is, obviously overall the skills in Photoshop I've definitely improved in. Second of all, I've definitely improved the colour scheme. I made the colour scheme a lot more clear in my final front page, which I thought was important, because in this one, in my college magazine, you can't really see the text, and I feel the colour scheme was kind of put together rather quickly, and I didn't really spend much time looking at it. Obviously you can tell it's kind of a blue, obviously from the masthead's blue, and a few of the bits of the text were in different shades of blue, and the plug's blue, but I didn't really take inspiration from other aspects of the photo to make the colour scheme, which I had done in this one. For example, I'd use the blue from the blue sky, and then I'd use the red from the lipstick, but with this one I kind of just decided to do it as blue. I took a bit of inspiration from the colour of this biology textbook, which was blue, but apart from that I didn't really spend much time on it. So I've obviously learned how to construct a better colour scheme for a magazine, and obviously now I know how important a colour scheme is to a magazine front page and how to make it look effective. Next of all, obviously the photos. A lot of people have said, and I agree, the fact that taking really good photos is probably one of the most important things you could do, because overall, if you don't have good photos, then you don't have much to work with, and if you've got really good photos that you can work with, then the rest will just follow really quickly, and it'll be easier to come up with a colour scheme and the rest of the design for the page. So with this one, I'm actually really happy with the image I did take for my college magazine. That's probably one of the things I wouldn't change about it, because this image I think is great. And also, you probably don't notice, but I did get some, in this image my model actually blinked, but I took another picture of her in a different location, and using some really advanced Photoshop skills, which obviously I needed help from, the technician helped me with this one, and he to replace the eyes to make it like these were her eyes, because this picture I really liked, but it was a shame that she had blinked. Obviously this shows I can use Photoshop to improve these kind of amendments. And onto the headline. The headline is definitely something I've improved on, because you can tell I didn't realise back here how bold a headline should be, so I didn't really have much of a headline on here. I just kind of put 3 random features on here, and just hope one of them would be considered a headline, because obviously this one's slightly bigger. But I realised how important a headline is, because it's supposed to refer to the main image, and it's supposed to be the most important headline, and it's supposed to be the most important article in it, so the audience are more likely, that's what they're going to most likely buy the magazine for, is for that article. So obviously if I could improve it, I would change the headline. Another thing is definitely the layout. I've learned how to, the layout actually for my first draft of my final front page for my music magazine. I definitely decided to use kind of I decided to use more of the space, because on my first draft I only had my headline and like these 4 features, these ones that I'm pointing at now, the audience Taylor Swift one, the review, the CMA and the CMA one, and obviously the plug was still there, and this hot listing, but there was so much empty space, and I kind of, that was on my first draft of my front cover for my music magazine, but obviously you can tell on here that I kind of did the same, and I've left a lot of empty space, because you can tell there's a big gap here, and there's like these gaps where I could have put other features, and obviously linking back to the photos, I probably would have left a bit more space to put content and to put features in the picture, because my model kind of takes up most of the page, so I couldn't really put any features onto of her, or it wouldn't look right. So I've definitely learned how to improve the layout and how important the layout is to the magazine. Okay, now I'm briefly going to talk about what changes I would make to my college magazine. I was quite happy with this, but obviously looking back on it now, in comparison to my front cover of my music magazine, I would change quite a lot. Obviously, first one's thinking back to what I said before, I would definitely use up more space, because it will make it a lot more conventional, because like this one there isn't much spare space, and the spare space that is there is space that needs to be there, that's essential. Another change I would make was definitely the barcode. Obviously I didn't realise how big it had to be, small it had to be, so I definitely made it a bit too large, and next time I would probably make it smaller and also add a QR code, because I added this into one of my final drafts, and I felt it made it look a lot more conventional, and it's something that's very up to date. One of the main improvements I would have made, and this was actually suggested by my cousin who actually does studying read at university. He mentioned it while I was showing this to him a few months ago, is adding a stroke onto the text, because obviously stroke is like when it's like a little outline of black or whatever colour you want, and I used a lot of stroke obviously this led on to me to use a lot of the stroke effect in my final music magazine front page, because you can tell on here that you can't really see much of the text, and if I'd added on a little stroke, which is a very, very easy tool, it would have made it a lot more noticeable. Obviously I did use like this kind of feedback to the advantage, and I brought this over and carried over this skill into my music magazine to my own advantage. Overall, talking about how useful this preliminary task is, I felt this was really useful in creating my final product, because it definitely gave me an insight of how hard I had to work, and also gave me an insight of how quickly I had to develop these skills and how quickly I needed to submit, because obviously I didn't have an idea of how quick I had to create stuff to submit it. So obviously through here I managed to make it better through that fact, because obviously I did this one in a rush, and this one is obviously I spent a lot more time on, but obviously this also gave me kind of an insight of how fast I had to work in Photoshop, and I had to adapt to this AS standard and work a lot faster. So that's definitely why I think it was useful, and obviously I developed all these skills on the way. Now I'm just going to quickly state what I did actually like in my college magazine. Things I wouldn't change, like I said before, is the image and the masthead. I really like those because they definitely contrast each other very well, and they're also very stand out. And obviously I had to edit this image to make it go over the masthead, which is something I carried over into my final music magazine. Another thing I could have developed with my college magazine was definitely change the text into something a lot more vibrant, because all the text is in the same font except for the masthead. So I feel obviously I use about maybe 2 or 3 different fonts with this one, so that definitely made them differentiate and made them stand out separately, and so I definitely do that with my college magazine. And obviously another way I would develop was adding the stroke, which obviously I've mentioned before, and is something that I added on to my music magazine. Okay, this overall, the skills I've learned from making my college magazine have definitely helped me, fully create my final draft of my music magazine, mainly because it's definitely brought my Photoshop skills to an advanced level. And obviously, this may obviously be useful for me in the future, but for now, it's definitely helped me improve that. And I'm very satisfied with my final music magazine front cover, because it did take a lot of work. And from doing the preliminary task, I got to see all my errors and what went wrong. And obviously, I took these improvements along with my audience feedback from my drafts and put it into my final front cover page, which definitely I think is very, very successful in the way. So yeah, that's it for my question 7, and thank you.